My father sold me to the devil for a gambling debt, but the worst part is, I liked living in his golden cage. The realization did not hit Elena all at once, it came in waves, nauseating and cold, as she stood in the center of their peeling living room. Her father, Marcus, sat on the threadbare sofa, his head in his hands, weeping the kind of tears that had manipulated her since childhood. He was not crying for her. He was crying for himself, for the physical pain he would endure if the debt was not settled. But this time, the currency was not money. It was not the deed to their crumbling apartment or her mother's pawned jewelry. He wants you, Elena, Marcus sobbed, his voice muffled by his palms. Damon Thorne. He said the debt is 200,000, or a month. 1 month of collateral. Elena felt the blood drain from her face. The name Damon Thorne was a ghost story in their city. He was the man the police did not touch, the shadow behind the luxury hotels and the shipping docks. He was a predator who lived in a glass fortress on the cliff, looking down on the grime of the city where Elena and her father scraped by. Collateral, she whispered, the word tasting like ash. You mean a hostage? Guest, Marcus corrected quickly, looking up with watery, red-rimmed eyes. He said a guest. 30 days, Elena. Just 30 days and the slate is wiped clean. If you do not go, his men will be here by midnight. They'll take my fingers first. Then my eyes. He reached out, grabbing the hem of her worn jeans. Please, Elle. You re the only thing of value I have left. That sentence should have been the warning. It should have been the moment she grabbed her backpack and ran out the door, leaving him to the fate he had carved for himself with decks of cards and bottles of cheap whiskey. But Elena was 21, and she had spent her entire life trying to be the anchor in her father's storm. She looked at his trembling hands, the hands that had once braided her hair before the addiction took over, and she broke. 1 month, she said, her voice hollow. She did not pack much. She did not own much. Just a canvas bag with faded t-shirts, cheap toiletries, and a book she had read a dozen times. When the black SUV pulled up to the curb an hour later, the neighborhood went silent. It was a vehicle that cost more than their entire building. The driver did not speak. He opened the door, and Elena stepped into the scent of expensive leather and chilled air. As they drove away, she looked back at the window of their apartment. Her father was not watching her leave. He was already pouring a drink, the relief visible even from the street. The drive up to the cliffs took 40 minutes. The iron gates of the Thorne estate opened automatically, revealing a sprawling modern mansion of glass, steel, and black stone. It looked less like a home and more like a mausoleum for the living. Elena was escorted into a foyer that was vast and silent. Her sneakers squeaked on the black marble floor, the sound echoing humiliatingly. Miss Vance. The voice came from the top of the floating staircase. Elena looked up. Damon Thorne stood there, a silhouette against the setting sun streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows. He was taller than she imagined, broader, wearing a charcoal suit that fit him like armor. But it was his face that froze her breath in her throat. He was handsome in a brutal, sharp-edged way, but a thin, pale scar ran through his left eyebrow, disrupting the perfection. His eyes were dark, devoid of warmth, analyzing her like a biological specimen. He descended the stairs slowly, every step calculated. He stopped 3 feet from her, close enough that she could smell the scent of rain and expensive scotch clinging to him. You look like him, Damon said, his voice a low rumble. Weak chin. Fearful eyes. Elena straightened her spine, anger flaring through her terror. I'm here to pay a debt. Not to be insulted. Damon tilted his head, a flicker of amusement crossing his stoic features. The debt is financial. Your presence here is merely insurance. You will stay in the East Wing. You are not to leave the grounds. You are not to disturb me while I work. If you try to run, I will not chase you. I will simply pay your father a visit. He stepped closer, invading her personal space, forcing her to look up at him. Do we have an understanding, Elena? Yes, she managed to say, hating how her voice trembled. Good. He signaled to a maid who had appeared silently in the shadows. Show her to her room. Lock the door from the outside at night. Wait, Elena said, her heart hammering. What exactly do you expect of me? For this month. Damon paused, his back to her. He turned his head slightly, his profile sharp and cruel. I expect you to exist, Miss Vance. And I expect you to remember every single day that your freedom was the price of your father's incompetence. He walked away, leaving her standing in the cold, beautiful hall. The maid guided her to a room that was bigger than her father's entire apartment, filled with silk sheets and designer furniture. But as the heavy oak door clicked shut, the sound of the lock turning from the outside echoed like a gunshot. Elena rushed to the door, pounding on it once, futilely. She slid down to the floor, burying her face in her knees. She had made her choice. She had saved her father. But as the silence of the golden cage settled around her, she realized the price might be her own soul. The fall did not happen because of cruelty. It happened because of the silence. For the first 3 days, Elena lived in a state of high adrenaline panic. She paced the luxurious suite, waiting for the heavy footsteps, waiting for Damon to come and claim whatever sick payment he felt he was owed. But he never came. The door unlocked automatically at 7 o'clock a.m. and locked again at 10 o'clock p.m. Trays of gourmet food were left on a table in the hallway. By the 4th day, the silence began to shift from terrifying to confusing. Elena ventured out of her room. The house was a masterpiece of isolation. It was quiet, so incredibly quiet. There were no creditors banging on the door screaming threats. There was no sound of her father retching in the bathroom after a binge. There was no fear of the electricity being cut off. She found the library on the 5th day. It was a 2-story cavern of books, smelling of old paper and beeswax. She was running her hand along the spine of a first edition when she sensed him. Damon was sitting in a high-backed leather chair in the corner, a glass of amber liquid in his hand, watching her. Elena jumped, nearly dropping the book. I did not know you were here. It's my house, he said simply. He did not look angry. He looked exhausted. The top button of his shirt was undone, revealing the hollow of his throat. I can leave, she said, clutching the book to her chest like a shield. Stay, he commanded. It was not a request, but it lacked the bite of his earlier threats. Read. Just do not talk. And so, the routine began. Elena stopped hiding in her room. She spent her days in the library or the sprawling gardens overlooking the ocean. She saw Damon only in the evenings. They existed in the same orbit, 2 ghosts haunting the same castle. The shift happened 2 weeks in. Elena was in the kitchen, trying to make coffee with a machine that looked more like a spaceship. The steam wand hissed violently, scalding her hand. She gasped, dropping the metal pitcher. Before the pitcher hit the floor, Damon was there. He moved with a speed that was unnatural. He caught the pitcher and grabbed her wrist in one fluid motion, pulling her hand under the cold water of the sink. His grip was firm, his large hand completely engulfing hers. Elena looked up at him, expecting annoyance. Instead, she saw focus. His brows were furrowed as he inspected the red skin of her palm. You clumsy, he muttered, but his thumb brushed over her pulse point, sending a jolt of electricity straight to her core. The machine is ridiculous, she countered, breathless. She was standing so close to him she could see the flecks of gold in his dark irises. Damon turned off the water. He did not let go of her hand. The kitchen was silent, save for the hum of the refrigerator. He looked down at her, his gaze dropping to her lips, then back to her eyes. The air between them grew heavy, charged with a tension that had nothing to do with fear and everything to do with a hunger she had not known she possessed. Does it hurt? He asked, his voice low and rough. No, she whispered, though her hand was stinging. He released her abruptly, stepping back as if he had been burned. Be more careful. I do not pay the staff to nurse you. He stormed out, but Elena remained by the sink, clutching her hand to her chest. Her heart was racing, not with the desire to run away, but with the shocking realization that she wanted him to come back. As the days blurred into 3 weeks, the luxury of the estate began to feel less like a prison and more like a sanctuary. She caught herself dressing for dinner, choosing the silk dresses that had mysteriously appeared in her closet. She caught Damon watching her across the long dining table, his gaze lingering on the curve of her neck. They spoke more. Brief, sharp exchanges about books, politics, or art. He was brilliant, cynical, and dangerously charismatic. He never touched her again, but the threat of his touch hung over them, suffocating and intoxicating. On the 28th day, Elena made a mistake. She called her father. She used the landline in the hallway. The phone rang 5 times before Marcus picked up. Yeah. His voice was slurred. Background noise, laughter, clinking glasses, filtered through. Dad. It's Elena. Oh, Marcus said. The joy she expected was not there. There was a pause, then a sigh of impatience. Everything okay? You re-not, he did not kick you out, did he? No, Elena said, a cold knot forming in her stomach. I just wanted to hear your voice. Are you okay? I'm fine, Elle. Listen, I'm in the middle of something. You re-doing good, right? Just 2 more days. Do not mess this up for me. The line went dead. Elena stood there, holding the receiver. She looked around the golden hallway, at the fresh flowers on the console table, the security, the peace. Then she thought of her father, gambling away the peace she bought him with her freedom. Damon appeared at the end of the hall. He had heard. He must have. He does not miss you, Damon said. It was not cruel, it was a statement of fact. I know, Elena whispered, tears pricking her eyes. Damon walked toward her. He stopped inches away, his presence overwhelming. He reached out, his hand hovering near her face, before his fingers grazed her cheek, wiping away a tear that had not yet fallen. Why are you crying for a man who would trade you for a flush royal? Damon asked, his voice harsh with restrained emotion. Because he's all I have, she confessed. Is he? Damon's gaze bored into hers. For a moment, she thought he would kiss her. She leaned in, her body betraying her, desperate for the collision. But Damon pulled back, his expression hardening into stone. Go to your room, Elena. Lock the door. Because if you stay here looking at me like that, I will forget that you are a debt and take things I have not paid for. She fled to her room, throwing herself on the bed. She did not cry for her father. She cried because in 48 hours, she would have to leave this monster who treated her better than her own blood. She had fallen in love with her jailer, and the open door terrified her more than the lock ever had. The morning of the 30th day arrived with the brutality of a winter storm. The sky was gray, the ocean below the cliffs churning violently. Elena had packed her canvas bag the night before. It looked pathetic sitting on the velvet chaise lounge, a reminder of the life she was returning to. She walked downstairs, her steps heavy. Damon was waiting in the foyer, just as he had been on the first day. But the dynamic had shifted. He was not looking at her with disdain anymore, he was looking at her with a blank, walled-off expression that was infinitely worse. The car is waiting, he said. No hello. No goodbye. That's it. Elena asked, stopping at the bottom of the stairs. The deal is done. The debt is settled, Damon said, turning his back to her to adjust a stack of files on the entry table. You are free to go. The dismissal stung more than a slap. Elena swallowed her pride. Thank you. For keeping me safe. Damon did not turn around. Go, Elena. She walked toward the heavy oak doors, her heart breaking with every step. She pushed the door open, the cold wind hitting her face. She was halfway to the idling black car when she realized she had left her jacket, the one with her house keys in the pocket, on the chair in the library where she had sat that morning. Wait, she told the driver. She ran back into the house. Damon was gone from the foyer. She hurried to the library, her sneakers quiet on the rugs. She grabbed her jacket from the armchair. As she turned to leave, a folder on Damon's mahogany desk caught her eye. It was lying open. A photograph was clipped to the top. A photograph of her. Curiosity, cold and sharp, seized her. She knew she should leave. She knew snooping was dangerous. But she stepped closer. The document was not a record of a poker game. It was a bill of sale. Auction lot number 45. Subject, Elena Vance. Seller, Marcus Vance. Elena's hands trembled as she picked up the paper. Her eyes scanned the text. It was an auction manifest from the underground syndicate. Her father had not lost a card game. He had listed her as collateral to a group known as the Red Room, a notorious human trafficking ring that shipped women overseas. The starting bid was $50,000. Below that was the transaction record. Winning bidder, Damon Thorne. Bid, $200,000. Notes, immediate acquisition. No transfer to secondary location. The world tilted on its axis. The heir left the room. Her father had not stumbled into a debt with a loan shark. He had actively taken her to the market. He had planned to sell her into sexual slavery for cash. And Damon had not won her in a game. He had bought her. He had paid 4 times the market value to outbid the traffickers. I told you to leave. Elena spun around. Damon was standing in the doorway of the library. He looked dangerous, his fists clenched at his sides. You bought me, she whispered, holding up the paper. You did not win me. You bought me. Damon walked into the room, snatching the paper from her hand and throwing it back on the desk. It does not matter. It matters, she screamed, the sound tearing from her throat. My father, he knew. He knew who the other bidders were. Damon's jaw tightened. He knew. He set the reserve price, Elena. She felt like she was going to vomit. The men she had sacrificed herself for, the men she had worried about for 30 days, had looked at his only daughter and seen a paycheck. He had not just been careless, he had been monstrous. Why, she asked, tears streaming down her face. Why did you do it? You do not even know me. You paid $200,000 for a stranger. Because I knew what the Red Room does to women, Damon growled, stepping closer, his composure cracking. I could not watch him hand you over to them. I bought you to keep you out of the crates, Elena. I brought you here to show you what you were worth, to give you a month of peace before you had to go back to reality. But I failed. You failed, she choked out. I failed because I did not want to let you go, he admitted, his voice dropping to a whisper. Now get out. Get out before I change my mind and lock the doors for real. The drive back to the city was a blur of gray concrete and shattered illusions. Elena sat in the back seat, her body numb, but her mind sharpening with a terrifying clarity. She thought of her father's tears. She thought of his relief when she left. It was all a performance. He was a parasite who had finally found a host he could not drain dry, so he had tried to sell the host. The car pulled up to the curb of the dilapidated apartment building. It looked even smaller and dirtier than she remembered. And there he was. Marcus Vance stood on the sidewalk. He was wearing a new leather jacket. He looked well-fed. He was smiling. The driver opened the door for Elena. She stepped out onto the cracked pavement. The smell of garbage and exhaust fumes filled her nose, replacing the scent of sea salt and cedar. Elena. Marcus opened his arms, stepping forward. My girl. You back. He hugged her. His embrace felt slimy. Elena stood rigid, her arms at her sides. He pulled back, grinning, scanning her face. Well. How was it? Did the monster hurt you? You look good. You look healthy. His eyes darted to the car, checking if she had brought anything valuable back with her. Is it over? The debt is gone. Elena looked at him. Really looked at him. She saw the greed in the lines around his eyes. She saw the relief that he had gotten away with it. He was not happy she was safe, he was happy the transaction was complete. The debt is gone, Elena said, her voice calm, steady, unrecognizable to her own ears. Thank God, Marcus let out a breath, clapping his hands together. I was so worried, Elle. You have no idea. But we can start over now. I have a feeling, my luck is changing. I've got a game tonight, low stakes, just to get back on my feet. He was already moving on. He had sold her, retrieved her, and was ready to gamble again. If she stayed, it would only be a matter of time before he sold her again, and next time, Damon would not be there to outbid the monsters. Elena reached into her pocket. She pulled out the set of keys to the apartment, the home she had scrubbed, paid for, and defended for years. Here, she said. Marcus looked at the keys, confused. What? You not coming up? No, Elena said. Do not be dramatic. You tired? Come upstairs, I'll make tea. We family. Family. Elena laughed. It was a dark, jagged sound. I saw the paperwork, Dad. I saw the auction manifest. Marcus froze. The color drained from his face, replaced instantly by a flash of anger, the anger of a man caught in his lie. You do not understand business, Elena. I had no choice. I did what I had to do to survive. So did I, Elena said. She dropped the keys on the dirty sidewalk between them. They clattered loudly. I survived you. Where are you going to go? Marcus sneered, his mask dropping completely. You have nothing without me. You nothing. I have a choice, she said. She turned her back on him. She heard him shouting her name, screaming insults, calling her an ungrateful brat. His voice sounded small, like a mosquito buzzing in the distance. Elena walked back to the idling black car. The driver, who had been watching with a stoic expression, straightened up. He reached for the handle, but Elena opened the door herself. She did not look back at the crumbling building. She slid onto the leather seat. Take me home, she said. The driver met her eyes in the rearview mirror. He nodded once. Yes, am. As the car pulled away, leaving her screaming father in a cloud of exhaust, Elena pulled out her phone. She did not call the police. She did not call a friend. She simply watched the city blur past as they ascended back toward the cliffs. When they arrived at the gates, they were already open. Damon was standing on the front steps of the mansion. He had not gone back inside. He had been waiting. Elena got out of the car. She left her canvas bag in the back seat. She did not need those clothes anymore. She did not need that life. She walked up the stone steps. Damon watched her approach, his expression wary, his chest rising and falling rapidly. You came back, he said, his voice rough. You left the gate open, she replied. The gate was always open for you to leave, Elena. Never to return. You bought me to save me, she said, stopping on the step below him so they were eye level. You tried to be noble. It does not suit you. I am a monster, Elena. Make no mistake. I own this city. I have blood on my hands. I know, Elena said. She reached out, placing her hand on his chest, right over his heart. It was beating frantically against her palm. But out there. In the world I came from. That's where the real monsters are. They just smile while they bleed you dry. She looked up into his dark eyes, seeing the vulnerability hidden behind the ice. I do not want freedom, she whispered. I want the cage. As long as you in it with me. Damon let out a shuddering breath. His resolve shattered. He reached out, wrapping his arm around her waist and pulling her violently against him. He buried his face in her neck, inhaling sharply. You can never leave again, he growled against her skin, a promise and a threat intertwined. If you walk through these doors now, you stay. Forever. Elena closed her eyes, feeling safe for the first time in her life. She wrapped her arms around the beast, finally accepting her place in the story. Close the door, Damon, she said. He lifted her into his arms, carrying her across the threshold. The heavy oak doors slammed shut behind them, sealing out the world, the debts, and the lies. The golden cage was locked tight, and Elena finally, truly, felt free.